Screaming that old-time religion, good religion that it used to be. Old-time religion, hallelujah, good enough for me.
With society at a crossroads between what is traditional and with what is new, it appears more and more that old-time religion is getting farther and farther out of reach. And with this most recent breakthrough, the practice of religion entering the virtual sphere, that old-time religion isn't necessarily changing for the worse, but it sure is changing. It used to be that the biggest issue was people praying to statues versus praying to their lords, but now people are praying to pixels. Now, a little backstory, religion in Second Life is booming. So much so that NBC News' Brian Williams did a piece on this very phenomenon. We have virtual churches and temples and mosques getting flocks by the hundreds to attend services. But why? And what does that do to that old-time religion? That's what we set out to discover. One of the main places I traveled to was Second Life Israel, because within it, there were a plethora of locations to teleport to, including synagogues, big cities such as Tel Aviv, Jerusalem, places like the Red Sea, and prayer rooms. What was fascinating was how interactive some of these rooms were. The recording was from times where there was no foot traffic, but there are people present on the weekends. The Torah and different scriptures are clickable, some only open to admins, but others are public. When clicked, they open a window with exactly the same documents one may study should they be in an actual temple. This aspect of virtual religion is identical, giving you the same verses to read, so in theory, the same experience. But with all of these interesting features, I wanted to see what people in-game felt about the idea of people studying and practicing religion in Second Life. So I interviewed a few kind souls in Second Life Tel Aviv who I unfortunately could not get on screencast. One man said to me, "So far, anything religious that happens in the Second Life Jewish community is really just symbolic rather than treated as a religious act." He went on, "Our community is mainly made up of Americans and Israelis, but there are Europeans and Australians too." I like what he said about it being symbolic, how it isn't that virtual religion is a replacement for the real thing, but just an added show of faith if you play the game. The broad aspect of the in-game practitioners goes to show how proximity is not a factor, and that bonds with your congregation are possible and do happen. The next person I found was a little less knowledgeable, however, his demographic is very much a part of the game. "Yes, I am Jewish," he said, "but I am more here to use the free facilities, sandbox, in parentheses, than really get spiritual. I guess for people that for some reason cannot attend real-life service or lectures, Second Life can be a nice alternative." Now, he's right. Second Life Israel, along with some of the Jewish communities, do offer a lot to their users, and a large number of people are there strictly to benefit from those items, which is not necessarily a bad thing. While in a forum, a woman mentioned something I never would have known being new to Second Life. She relayed that what surprised her was that some of the services, in all religions, not just Judaism, are sponsored by very, very vocal atheists. So that made her think that some of the services in Second Life are considered more for role play, and that you won't find faith information or guidance there. However, she did acknowledge that although it is hard work arranging meetings and community events in Second Life, there are a few very active faith communities intact. I spoke to a few more people in-game, but the responses weren't very insightful. So my last helpful interview was with a Jewish student at Rutgers who was willing to speak with me about his thoughts on the matter. I posed a very broad question about Judaism in virtual worlds, and this is the response that I got from him.
To me, Judaism isn't so much about following the written word of the doctrine, even though that's like the artifactual, sense of Judaism is that that you follow the doctrine and you're religious, so you go to a temple every week. But for me, it's more of the physical contact that you create, the relationships that you create with members of your congregation and the rabbi, and the spirituality of going to a service and hearing the music live. And so I feel like if you could create that sense online, somehow it could be possible. You could see it maybe visually, but it's not real, Who am I to say that's strange? But I feel like it's different. It doesn't give you the same effect as if you were there in person. So far as Judaism, I feel like it's definitely it's another medium. It's another like channel that you can like spread. You could spread the values and the rituals of it via online, but like I don't. It's not gonna have the same. Yeah, like if I had to spend the rest of my life like having Passover and like
And all
the
that
temple,
online.
bar mitzvahs, and weddings online, it would not be the same. No.
For my section, I studied how Christianity is practiced online and for what reasons. I studied the Christian Patio Second Life Fellowship. I observed its members participate in Mass as well as interviewed a few individuals from the community. The church is led by Pastor Brian Surgeon. The Mass had an attendance of about 20 members. What I noticed was that this church was very close-knit and very welcoming to newcomers. Regular members of the church will take the time to drive a car to Mass and park it outside. The other thing I noticed was that the atmosphere of the Mass was a lot more relaxed than they would be in real-life Masses. Members came in dressed in everything from Victorian-era gowns to fox costumes. Members would also openly discuss how they felt about the sermon in the chat box in the middle of Mass. I was able to interview 3 members from the Christian Patio Fellowship. The answers that I got for why they chose to attend Mass online varied, but they all shared a common theme of convenience. I also found that their attendance at real-life church to vary. One man that I interviewed, named Carl, never went to Mass in real life if he could avoid it. He claims to not be a morning person and finds it was just much more convenient to attend Mass online. Another woman that I interviewed, named Mrs. Tay, chooses not to go because in real life she has MS, which can cause her great pain sometimes. She only attends Mass on major holidays such as Christmas or Easter, when she will be spending the rest of the day with her family. Otherwise, she attends online and her son, who is a Eucharistic minister, brings her communion. The final member, Trey Jones, works 6 days a week and finds online Mass much easier to fit into his busy schedule. What I have found is that while this community may have different practices from those found in a real-life church, it functions essentially in the same way. The church builds a tight-knit community that welcomes newcomers in to discuss and praise Jesus Christ. By creating a space online, it allows Christianity to reach members that would otherwise be unable to attend Mass in real life.
When I first arrived to explore the Islamic faith, I noticed a sign in front of me that read Islamic lands, we expect decency. Next to that sign were 2 baskets with a note above that read, no decent outfit, click for one in this basket. This immediately told me the area I was in was more strict than the previous ones. I noticed the area was earthy and natural. Water and mountains surrounded me. What I thought was very realistic was the fact that prayer could be performed, and the creators of this area wanted prayer to be as real as possible, even when bowing down to the ground. I found a note card that was a halakha program, which is presented in the form of a lecture of basic Islam, participants exchanging their findings from Islamic sources, or reciting the Al-Quran. I stumbled across an interesting moving figure that had various phrases such as devotion and this is Islam, which was said to be Islamic art. The word Ummah means nation or community in Arabic and is commonly used to represent the collective community of Islamic peoples. I later performed wudu, the Islamic procedure for washing parts of the body with water, typically in preparation for formal prayers. Islamic spaces can be very effective as educational environments. The Islamic spaces in Second Life are usually virtual copies of buildings and mosques that are in the physical world that allow Second Life users to learn about and experience Hajj, which is why they should still be treated as sacred places. Hajj, or pilgrimage, is one of the largest annually occurring pilgrimages in the world and one of the 5 pillars of Islam. It is a religious duty that must be carried out by every able-bodied Muslim who can afford to do so at least once in his or her lifetime. Although I returned to this location multiple times, I was only able to interview one user who was actually an educator in the Muslim community. I asked him if practicing online was similar to the real thing, in which he responded that practicing online is more of a learning tool. Second Life can benefit many newcomers and practitioners that want to learn more about Islam and the practices. In comparison to real-life practices, though, Second Life is extremely different. He says there are things being taught on Second Life that people in the physical world may or may not disagree with, but in the end, people shouldn't believe that they're actually fulfilling Hajj completely if only practicing online virtually. Overall, Second Life is a great learning tool, but people should keep in mind that it's not the real thing. It is a second life.
When exploring the Buddhist community in Second Life, I mostly noticed how the community was built to replicate every little detail of the practices in the real-life Buddhist community. The Buddhist Center is made up of temples, Buddhist statues, and areas where practitioners can attend meditation and teaching sessions. Therefore, I found that the Buddhist Center on Second Life stays true to the real-life practices. Users have created interactive orbs where users can bow to Buddhist statues, seats where users can sit and meditate, and other details such as interactive bowls that are clicked on to indicate the beginning and ending of a meditation session, just like in real life. Furthermore, the feel of the environment complements the Buddhist practice of meditation and tranquility, as the location is rather peaceful, calm, and beautiful. I found that the location was very scenic and surrounded by nature and relaxing music. There are many places where users can peacefully relax and or meditate. Some of these areas include a hot spring where users can do yoga on an interactive mat or where they can relax on a hammock, a tea house with the ocean view, and a gazebo by the water. As I further explored the Buddha Center, I realized that the location's primary purpose is to teach. I found a library where users can find books that the creators find most beneficial towards learning and practicing Buddhism. When you click on the books, it provides you with a clickable link where the user can find the book online. Other information provided are the names and pictures of the avatars in charge of the location and their staff, a schedule of the day's activities, such as meditating, readings, and classes, and other resources such as Facebook, Twitter, and the community's online website. There you can find everything there is to know about the virtual world. After exploring, participating, and interviewing participants of the Buddhist community, I found that the Buddhist virtual community takes their practice very serious, even though it is through a virtual game.